Our first item on the agenda is for the proposed charter amendment number 180 to recommend amending Article 400 of the Charter of the City of Laurel to reflect the dissolution of the Department of Community Resources and Emergency Management, also known as CREM, to establish two new departments, the Department of Human Services and Emergency Management, and amending Section 469 to reflect Director of the Department of Emergency Management and add Section 470, Director of the Department of Human Services. Mayor Keith Sidnor, you now have the floor.
Good evening, everyone. Happy New Year. Thank you, Madam President. Before I get started on the resolution, I want to take a moment to thank all the staff, Director Cornwell of CREM for a great job today, assisting the EOC, Director Williams, Communication Department, getting our social media presence out, Chief of Police and this police officer, Director Miller with DPW, Director Bailey with Park and Rec. These are all team efforts and our stakeholders as well. So I just want to take a moment that we're not fully out of the storm yet, though. We got some things, a couple of inches might happen today, but we're prepared to deal with that tomorrow as well. We're going to be open back up on time at 9 o'clock. Staff will report on time to work. They should be getting, the directors will be sending emails out as well. But it was a great team effort, our first snowstorm, and just want to give kudos to all those departments and personnel, and thank your staff in the morning as well. So I'm just going to go into the resolution. Thank you, Madam President. Well, the administration now reviewed the operation of the Department of Community Resources and Emergency Management and recognized the need to enhance efficiency and the scope of the city service to better service residents, and therefore determined it would be in the best interest to dissolve the Department of Community Resources and create two separate departments, the Emergency Management and Human Resources and Human Services. The Human Service Department would manage the Craig A. Moe Laurel Multi-Service Center, Laurel Helping Hands, and other social service programs for the city of Laurel, whereas the Department of Emergency Management would be responsible for emergency management, preparedness, response, mitigation, and other emergency operations for the city of Laurel. The administration I propose creating two separate departments to allow the activities and responsibilities of each to be better monitored and supervised. The creation of these two separate departments will allow for enhanced security, confidential records, lines of communication, and more effective support, all which allows the city to better serve its residents and greater Laurel community. So what I'm proposing now that each department will have their own department head. The emergency management will have the director, and they'll have an assistant director. The human services will have a director and a program operation manager, assistant program manager, administration assistant, a clinical supervisor, and a Spanish-speaking clinical supervisor. There'll only be 8 personnel for this whole department. 6 personnel for the Human Service Department and 2 personnel for the Emergency Management Department. I will not add any staff. No new staff will be added in the budget. It'll be the same budget we have. The salary will be according right now without a pay increase, and a COLA is $619,221. There will be the salary over the next 3 years, almost close to $2 million without the increase in salaries and COLA. Once again, there's no increase in staff this budget. Every year, we evaluate all departments to see what staff we need. But this department will be operating, the Human Service Department will not be having the deputy director. All the employees they have right now, the helping hands and the lower 204 employees that are 204, the 3 employees there will be combined under Human Services with no increase in the budget and no new staff for this physical budget. Once again, every year we evaluate the budget, we evaluate staff, personnel, but I'm gonna be operating this department without a deputy director. So any questions from the council, I'll take.
Thank you, Mayor Sidnor. Are there any questions or comments from the council? I see your hand. Council Member Simmons, please proceed.
Thank you, Madam President. Yeah, mostly just to share a couple of thoughts running through my mind. First of all, I'm mindful that charter amendment, is one of our weightier types of legislation we can pass, and want to be sure we give it a due. I'm also mindful that the multi-service center really represents a new asset in the portfolio of our city, and sort of some needed adjustments around that to ensure its success. In my thinking, it's true that we have many sort of multi-function departments, things like Parks and Rec, budget and personnel, and economic and community development departments. But it's also true that this is a sort of a strategic initiative for the city to sort of have this multi-service center, and the plethora of really good things that can be accomplished, through that venue. I wanted to thank the mayor for, I know he sort of did a cost study around the costs, and assured council that the outlook for this next fiscal year would be no change to overall costs. And I think that was helpful to have that information. In my mind, it's a little bit of an interesting byproduct around the remaining emergency management being a 2-member department. But certainly they have proven their worth today and yesterday, sort of this past weekend. But I am interested to hear other thoughts that colleagues have as we make this decision. But I just sort of want to share some of that thinking that was run through my head to the degree it's helpful.
Thank you, Councilmember Simmons. Are there any additional comments or questions from the council members?
I have a question. I have a statement actually. First of all, Happy New Year, everyone. And I'm working on fumes right now. I got to be back at work at 9 o'clock tonight, put some more snow. But Mayor, and the departments that are in charge of the snow operation, very good job. I want to say that I haven't seen any accidents or anything on our side, on the west side end, and I just wanted to put that out there. Mayor, I think your idea is great. I think it should be a division to move strategically, to have the multi-service center to work at a flowing pace and into your tenure and success to this idea. That's all I need to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilwoman Johnson, do you have any input or questions as well?
No questions. I always feel on the spot to say something, but I do appreciate the mayor sharing with us the need to separate those departments. And like I think Councilman Simmons mentioned, as we're growing, so it's not just the multi-service center, that's a big portion of it, but just to remind people that it will encompass other services that we may have to provide to the city. So I think it's a really good idea to separate that and have that division. Just wanted to share that.
Thank you. In addition to my fellow council members as well, for this proposed charter amendment, I have provided my individual input with recommendations and questions to the mayor and city to understand if there will be the additional financial and staffing needs going forward. But in addition to that, as I was out during the holiday season, also had an opportunity to speak with emergency personnel as well to understand their needs going forward. And it was mentioned to me about the multi-service center and asking questions. And they also recommended, without any awareness, that this would be a good idea if it was divided as well, just so there could be a specific focus on what each department does. So I wanted to provide that input too. That's all that I have as far as input. If there are no other questions, hearing none, if there are no others, and if the council has no objections, this item will be placed on the agenda for introduction and first public hearing at our January 13th, 2025 virtual regular mayor and city council meeting at 6 p.m. Moving to agenda item number 7 is the introduction, first public hearing on Charter Amendment number 180, a charter resolution of the mayor and city council of Laurel, Maryland, amending Article 400, administration of the Charter of the City of Laurel to reflect the dissolution of the Department of Community Resources and Emergency Management CREM and the establishment of 2 new departments, the Department of Human Services and Emergency Management, and amending Section 469 to reflect Director of the Department of Emergency Management and add Section 470, Director of the Department of Human Services. Mayor Sidnor, you now have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. The administration and I reviewed the operation of the Department of Community Resource and Emergency Management and recognized the need to enhance efficiency and the scope of the city services to better serve its residents, and therefore determined it would be in the best interest to dissolve the Department of Community Resources CREM and create two separate departments, emergency management and human services. The Human Services Department will manage the Craig A. Mo Laurel Multi-Service Center, Laurel Helping Hands, and other social programs for the city of Laurel. The Department of Emergency Management will be responsible for emergency management, preparation, response, mitigation, and other emergency operations for the city of Laurel. The administration I propose for creating two separate departments to allow the activities and responsibilities of each to be better monitored and supervised. The creation of these two separate departments allow for enhanced security, confidential records, and lines of communication can be more effectively supported, all which allows to make the city better serve its residents. The emergency manager will be the emergency manager, director, and assistant director. That would make up that department. The Department of Human Services would be the director, program operation manager, assistant program manager, the assistant administrative assistant 2, a clinical supervisor, a Spanish-speaking clinical counselor. So there's 8 people in the CREM department right now, and 2 people go to, like I said earlier, 2 people go to the emergency management department, and the 6 individuals go into the human service department. There will not be an increase in the budget for FY 2026. There will not be a deputy director for the human service department. Eventually, the director of the Craig A. Multi-Service Center will be brought to a director pending council approval. That concludes my report. I stand by for any questions the council has.
Thank you, Mayor Sidnor. Are there any questions from the council? I know that everyone had an ability to submit some questions and also receive some answers, but do you have any additional questions? I don't see any additional questions.
Madam
Okay.
President, I don't have any questions. I do have some comments on this. I know I missed the work session last week.
Absolutely.
So I've seen everything. I have received answers. Thank you, everyone who has given those to me. I am still concerned, not just about fiscal year 26, but future years, creating a new department. Knowing everything that's happening at the state and county level, I have hesitation to create a new department that may someday require additional tax resources. These were, when we voted on this in March of 2023 to create CREM through ordinance or through Charter Resolution number 177, the goal was to take them out of Parks and Rec and the city administrator's office and put them together so that they wouldn't have to have 2 separate departments. They'd be together. A lot of what is done in human services and emergency management, the same resources overlap. So that the 2 departments that might be proposed won't overlap and conflict with each other. So I do have some reservations on that. I do plan on meeting with the mayor on those, talking about it further, but right now I just wanted to express those concerns. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilmember Cole. Are there any additional questions or comments? No? Seeing that there are no additional questions or comments, Madam Clerk, can you please confirm if anyone is signed up to speak on agenda item number 7 today?
We don't have anyone signed up, President.
Thank you. Seeing that there are no speakers signed up, I will open the public hearing at 6:31 p.m. and close the public hearing at 6:31 p.m. This item will be moved to the second public hearing with possible action, which will be held on January 27th at our in-person meeting at 6 p.m. All right. Next on our agenda is number 8 is the second public hearing with possible action on Charter Amendment number 180, a charter resolution of the Mayor and City Council of Laurel, Maryland, amending Article 400, Administration of the Charter of the City of Laurel, to reflect the dissolution of the Department of Community Resources and Emergency Management, CREM, and the establishment of 2 new departments, the Department of Human Services and Emergency Management, and amending Section 469 to reflect Director of the Department of Emergency Management and add Section 470, Director of Department of Human Services. Mayor Sidnor, you now have the floor.
I'm sorry, Madam Clerk,
Yes.
or Madam President. I think we need to close the general public hearing first, officially.
Thank you. And this is my first one in person. Let's go back. I just said my whole speech. No. All right, so after our last speaker, I will close the public hearing on this item at 7 p.m. Now, just to confirm, do I need to say it again? Okay, perfect. That's great. All right, so now we will have Mayor Sidnor speak on agenda item number 8. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. As you know, this is the second public hearing of dissolving the Community Emergency Management Department and creating 2 new departments, one the Emergency Management Department and one is the Human Service Department. This task force started back in 2019 when I was a council member. I was on the committee to create this task force, and we identified that the winter shelter, folks were sleeping in the churches, and we know that was not right. And so we came with this task force. Councilmember Nicholas was on the task force as well, and also Pastor Strong was on the task force as well, who's going to call him up and speak on my behalf as well for this. So we had this task force created in 2019, in May of 2019. And at the end of this task force report, June 2020, the task force presented the report to the mayor and city council and various things they need to create this task force. We're talking about beds, male beds in the Winter Haven for the females, male beds for the males, and beds for the females. We talk about domestic violence assistance. We talk about employment assistance. We talk about access to transportation. We talk about medical assistance. We talk about referral assistance, Medicaid, services to support the LGBT community, housing, trade programs, legal aid, bathrooms and showers, veterans liaison, and case management. All these things fall under human services. As you can see, the multi-service center is now online. It came online in September of this year, last year, and we have those services. We partnership with Prince George, employ Prince George for job readiness. We partnership with Laurel for transitional housing. We partnership with Fish House for feeding our clients, and multi other services we partnership with. So all these things we addressing the community needs under human services. As emergency managers, a totally separate department that focus on emergencies, disasters, weather, snows, things of that nature. So that's why I wanted to create this separate department. There's some other reasons why as well, but I'm not going to go in detail that. But for the public, these are the main reasons. Human services are the things I just reiterated, and these are the things the task force said in 2019. They came back to report in the mayor and city council, and as under my watch as a mayor, I see the vision. The multi-service center is the most important building I see on my watch. I see that I want to have firsthand knowledge on it. So I want to create a department and put the people, the expertise in the department where they belong. Emergency management has wonderful expertise people, and they belong to that department. And human service has some people that I believe belong to that department. That's how I see it. So I ask for the council approval tonight to make the emergency department my separate department, human service separate department. So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Sidnor. Are there any additional questions or comments from the council to begin with? Okay. Not at this, yes. Okay.
A point of order, will we hear from the general
Yes.
public before
We will.
the council comments or and vice versa?
Right after.
Okay.
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 Thank you. Seeing that there are no additional questions or comments from the council at this time, we will now go to the public hearing portion for this agenda, item number 8. As a reminder, each person has 3 minutes to speak. Please state your name and the street and the city for the record. I will now open the public hearing portion for agenda item number 8 at 7:04 p.m. Mayor Sidnor has mentioned that former Council President Valerie Nicholas will be speaking, as well as Pastor Strong. And I believe there are additional people signed up, so if you don't mind coming down or standing in a line behind them, I have on the list for agenda item number 8, Ms. Umi Modeste, Tiffany Turner-Allen, Roy Smith, Ayana Castro, Norday Watson, Ms. Georgina Eiffel, Dr. Renee Garraway, and Marcia, Levi, thank you. Okay. So we'll start with Pastor Strong and former Council President Valerie Nicholas.
People were more than
Okay.
just convincing 3 minutes.
folks that support it can come together.
So
You're
the-
against it,
yeah.
you can speak against it. You support it, come forward, and Councilmember Nicholas and Pastor Strong would be the spokesperson for the group that supported. All you have to do is say your name. Those individuals say your name and your address first, and Councilmember Nicholas and Pastor Strong would speak on behalf of those in favor of creating the separate departments. So, Councilman Nicholas, you say your name first, and then Dr. Garraway, you can say your name and address, and just keep going. And then after everybody say their name and address on record, you and Pastor Strong can speak for the group.
Maryland, 20707.
Dr. Garraway, Olive Branch Way, Laurel, Maryland.
Is it on? Ayana Castro, 14214 Oak Point Drive, Laurel, Maryland.
Tiffany Turner Allen, I'm speaking or supporting as the Executive Director of the Human Services Coalition of Prince George's County, located at 1021 Martin Luther King Jr. Avenue, Bowie, Maryland.
Umi Modesti, 1020 10th Street, Laurel, Maryland.
Roy Smith II, Westmead Drive, 1400 block of Westmead Drive, Laurel, Maryland.
Eileen Stokes, Northview Court, Laurel, Maryland.
Good evening. Michael Dinkins, 8000 Cherry Lane, which is Laurel High School. I'm the principal of Laurel High School, and I'm in favor. Thank you.
Good evening, Dr. Marcia B. Levi, 8014 Spring Arbor Drive, and Park Center Drive is where I have our businesses.
Hello, I'm Nor Day, and I live at 7926 Chapel Cove Drive in Laurel, Maryland.
Hello, Tina Thomas. I'm at Flatwater Place in Laurel, Anne Arundel. I believe that's it.
Pastor Strong, City of Zion Church. I live at 8445 Snow Notes Place, Laurel, Maryland.
Are you for it? I think you're against, right?
I'm not really against.
Okay. We're just trying to get everyone together. Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you all for having me here tonight. As many of you all know, I also am a hospital chaplain. I'm the hospital chaplain at Doctors Community Medical Center. And for 25 years, I have had a nonprofit called Love Is Not Enough because I'm a survivor of domestic violence. And out of that birthed my services for the homeless and people in need. So I support the establishment of the two departments. As I see firsthand, there are more people in need than there are services. I think the multi-service center is a great start. I commend that, as Keith said, that we, served on the council together when that was established. But there is much more need. But I think the beginning would be the establishment of the two separate departments where direct services can be provided. Thank you.
Good evening. Again, I'm Pastor Strong, and as the mayor stated, we were part of a task force May 2019, but I sort of have a history with the homeless here in Laurel. My church, City of Zion, we used to house the homeless. We were one of those churches that allowed the men and the women to sleep in our buildings. And this sort of predates a lot of what's going on here. It's a lot of history. What we was doing, it was illegal. It was illegal. We were getting in good trouble, as John Lewis used to say, but we didn't want to see people just dying on the streets. So, yeah, we were breaking all kind of fire codes, all kind of safety codes. We were creating insurance liability for all of our buildings, but there was a need. We thank God that the multi-service center is up now, it's up and running, and it's magnificent. It's a well-oiled machine. I was just there last week. It's very successful, it's well coordinated. So I really just want to say a word for Marcel LeBlanc. She's doing a great job. She's doing a magnificent job. Matter of fact, I'm a little biased because she's a PK. And if you don't go to church, you don't know what that means. That's a pastor's kid. And she's a PK. She's a PK. I know her father. Matter of fact, I performed the wedding ceremony for her and her husband. And she's an outstanding individual. She has character. And during this election cycle, that's refreshing to have someone running something that has character. So yeah, she's doing an outstanding job. She serves faithfully at our church. And I just want to I strongly support this effort, strongly support this effort. Like Councilwoman Nicholas has said, this is just the tip of the iceberg. And you got the right person for the job. So I just want to stop by and just say a word for your effort and for Marshall LeBlanc. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time. And thank you, everyone, for coming up to say your name and showing support as well. We also have 2 individuals that would like to speak. I believe Ms. Calandra Young. We would love to hear from you as well. And also on the list for number 8, we have Ms. Georgina Eiffel after that.
Hello. Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. My name is Calandra Young, and I reside at 101 6th Street, Laurel, Maryland. Thank you for the opportunity to speak about Charter Amendment number 180, which proposes replacing the Department of Community Resources and Emergency Management with 2 new departments, Emergency Management and Human Services. While I understand the intent to improve service delivery, I just have a couple questions. So I know Mayor Keith Sidnor said that I oppose it, but I'm just asking general questions. I understand the intent to improve service delivery. I have questions and concerns about the short and long-term implications of this decision. First, what are the immediate and long-term impacts of this reconstructuring? How will costs, staffing, and service delivery be affected? And what are the goals for these departments moving forward? Second, why is the change necessary now? Are there specific challenges with the current structure, and how will this amendment address them? Third, what is the budgetary impact? What are the costs of creating new leadership positions, staff, and resources? And how will the city ensure that this doesn't strain the budget or increase overhead? Finally, how has the community been involved in this process? Have residents been consulted? And how will the city ensure equitable and accessible services, especially for marginalized populations? I recognize this amendment has potential benefits like improving specialization, accountability, and expanding human services. However, there are risks, including implementation costs, potential service disruptions, and overlapping responsibilities without clear coordination. To address these concerns, I recommend, first, providing a transparent breakdown of costs, a timeline, and a transition plan. 2, hosting public forums to gather resident feedback. 3, establishing performance metrics for both departments to ensure accountability. 4, developing a coordination plan to address areas where emergency management and human services intersect. In closing, I appreciate the council's commitment to improving services for our community, and I urge you to carefully evaluate this amendment's impact on the budget, services, and long-term planning to ensure best outcomes for Laurel residents. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time. Next, we have Ms. Georgina Eiffel.
Eiffel, again, I reside at 8231 North Lake Court in Laurel, Maryland. And I too, like Calandra, it is not that I am against the separation, I just didn't understand the need. And I did read the resolution. There wasn't really much there. So I loved some of the things that Calandra actually proposed, because coming from the public, I mean, I'm hearing everyone that lined up and said they support it, and a lot of it had to do with providing some emergency housing, so on and so forth. That is already going on. So I don't necessarily see where the benefit is coming in. I guess I clearly did not understand or see the difference between, I guess, community resources, whatever the CR was standing for before, and this human services. And then it seemed like, emergency management. Then I'm seeing that there's 2 directors. So again, how is this going to affect our budget? Because it clearly stated in, I think, 469 and 470 of the article that the director of each one would be a full-time dedicated position. So that's, again, opening up a whole new department, additional costs. So I, too, am a little bit, as a resident and taxpayer, trying to understand what are we really trying to get to. And the only thing that I saw actually in the resolution, it spoke to privacy and communication. It spoke to nothing else that I've heard here, that we're going to be able to service more people, we're going to be able to do this. None of that was kind of a part of this resolution. So I, too, am kind of like wondering, why are we moving to do this now when the multi-service center is already up? My understanding is housing people, is already housing males. And every week I can go out there on Facebook or in some group where it seems like y'all are always looking for volunteers, so you're still at a point where you are trying to staff up. And it is, in some cases I've seen where it can be a redundancy of what we may already have out there. And so again, I don't want us to fall into that. So I just don't have a clear picture on, yes, everybody's saying we separated, but what is that really giving us? What are we gaining from that? And that does not seem to be clear in any fashion or form. The cost of that separation has not been identified. It's very vague what you're going to services, other than, I think one thing was mentioned here, which was, what was it? Well, like I said, I'm looking at this resolution, and there's not enough meat on this bones. So again, it's not that I'm not for it, it's just that I don't know enough about it to say that this is a wise expenditure for the city of Laurel at this time.
Thank you so much, Ms. Ifill.
So I hope you take Tally's suggestion.
I believe, Mayor Sidnor, would you like to answer a few questions?
Yeah.
Close public hearing. Got to close the public hearing.
Nah, it's still open. It's still open. It's still open. Yeah, you close out there.
That's what I.
Yeah, it's still open.
Okay. So we're gonna close. Are we gonna close first?
Nah, it's still open. It's
Okay.
I'm
Okay,
speaking
go
on
right
this
ahead.
subject, and then you can close it. Then you
Okay.
can call for a vote. I'm just going to address a few questions. The way this process works, we have a work session first. The work session is we talk about that in length, in detail, and so all our work sessions is on YouTube TV, so you can review the work session. Then we have our first public hearing, and we talk about the same items and things of that nature. So, and then we have the final vote. But the department right now is made up of 8 personnel. We're not increasing any personnel in the budget. So 2 of those individuals in the emergency management are experts in emergency management. Director Cornwell, her assistant director, they will go into the emergency management department. That's 2 individuals. The other 6 individuals are 3 people from the Laurel Multi-Service Center. Ms. LeBlanc, who's the director, her program manager, and I think I don't know the other name of the person. There's 3 individuals there. And then the other departments are Laurel Helping Hands. That's our youth service bureau, and those are 3 individuals there as well. So it's a clinical supervisor, a counselor 1, and administration personnel. So there's no increase in personnel, no increase in the budget. Whatever the budget was established for that budget will be split. The 6 individuals will be under the Human Service Department, and they'll be paid the same salary they're making under the Human Service Department according to their position. The 2 individuals under the emergency management will go under the emergency management. They'll be paid their current salary as a director and assistant director. There will not be an assistant director for the Human Service Department because we have various partnerships, like I mentioned earlier. The multi-service centers consist of, like I said, various partners with Laurel, Ploy Prince George, Fish House, financial literacy classes, It'd be a partnership of people coming together to assist. Staff is only there to just manage the operation of the building. So every year, things could change. Right now, we're in a negotiation with Dr. Yunube. He wants to provide medical services there for the clients that come there. So that'd be an added component, but those are things we'll talk about next year budget. So this is something that, as my vision as the new mayor coming in, you see things, you tweak things, you see here. So I've been here a year now, and I see there's a need to break the department down. Like I said earlier, I'm not going to go in detail on all the reasons, because some of the reasons are personnel reasons, and so therefore, I ask for the council support on this resolution, charter amendment to break the human services down, create their own human service department, and create a department for emergency management. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for coming up to speak. We appreciate your passion. We appreciate you coming to speak with the council and for us to hear your thoughts and views. Now we are going to close the public. Does anyone else have anything to say about agenda item number 8 before we move forward? Just want to make sure. Okay. We're now going to close the public hearing portion at 7:21 p.m. Does the council have any additional questions or comments that they would like to make?
Yes, Madam President, if I may. Okay. Thank you. And first of all, thank you everyone for coming out this evening. And to me, it is a great sort of testament to see so many members of our community engaging on this really important question. I've persuaded myself both ways multiple times at this point because I see some merits on both sides of the argument. On the one hand, I think it's natural that with the addition of the multi-service center and its role in our city government, that our strategic resources be aligned to support it and to see the programs there flourish. And I know it's also a big part of the mayor's program and vision for this city, and I'd like to see that be successful. On the other hand, adding to our city's departmental account in order to create a department for something that we created a department for 2 years ago, which is what the existing City Resources and Emergency Management Department was set up not even 2 years ago in order to house the multi-service center. That part is one of the things I'm sort of struggling to sort of make sense of. The other part I'm struggling with is not so much that the Human Services shouldn't be its own department, because I think there's a lot of really good reasons for that, but that part of this plan means that the Emergency Management is out on its own as a two-person department, which seems a little odd to sort of have them floating out. So it's even not really about the Human Services Department, it's about the Emergency Management. Previous to this, they were an office, and under the city administrator, in my mind, it may make sense to move them back as an office because they're a critical capability for a city to have, but maybe it's not a year-round department that we need to have a bunch of budgetary line items around. So bottom line there is, it's not to say that I don't like sort of some of the big picture thrust of the plan, but I'm not fully persuaded in its current state that it's a complete enough plan with some of the other pieces to sort of achieve the stated objective and might benefit from a little bit additional attention. It's some of my thoughts. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Are there any additional comments or questions from the council, just to double check?
Madam President, I have some comments.
Thank you.
Similar to Councilman Simmons, I have some budgetary concerns about this amendment. A charter amendment is something that the council should not take lightly. We are changing our governing documents. That's why when we pass a charter amendment, there are special rules that apply to that. It is not the same as a regular ordinance. For those of you that may not be paying attention to some of the things at the state and federal level, or even at the county level, there are budget deficits that are coming that won't impact our city this year, but they will impact our city 18 months from now, 24 months from now. And I have some concerns on those. I would like to see a 3 to 5 year fiscal impact study. What's this going to cost us in 3 years, 5 years from now? We have assurances that there won't be any tax increases or change to the budget in fiscal year 26, but our job is to take care of the taxpayers not just now, but in the future. So with that, I would like to look at that impact study before we make a vote on this.
Can I say one more thing?
Yes, go right ahead.
Madam President, just call for the vote. Councilman Coles, I addressed that for you already. I told you each year that we have a budget, and that budget this year is no but increase. Next year, it might be an increase based on the needs of any department. All these department heads right here submit a budget every year based on the needs they need for the city. So I can't promise you, now you asked me for a 10-year plan, and I can't promise you a 10-year plan. I can promise you a plan each year based on the needs of each budget, because the budgets rotate every year. So I call for Madam President to please take a vote.
Thank you so much. We have one more comment that has been requested by Councilmember Mills, and then we will take the vote.
Thank you, Madam President. I strongly agree with the mayor, and I recognize that even with the budget that was approved, the numbers, if these two are separated, the numbers are still the same. Even if this was this year, next year, or any other year. So I strongly agree with the mayor.
Thank you, everyone. As you can see, this is a passionate topic, and we appreciate everyone coming today. For agenda item number 8, if it is the council's desire to pass Charter Amendment number 180, I will now entertain a motion.
A motion to approve the Charter Amendment number 180.
Madam Clerk, I have a motion. Do I have a second? I second. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Councilman Mills,
Yes.
President Clark,
Yes.
Councilman Cole,
No.
Councilwoman Johnson,
Yes.
Councilman Simmons,
My vote is yes, with the proviso that the mayor examines the Office of Emergency Management.
Mayor Sidnor.
I concur. Thank you, council.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And thank you, everyone, again, for your comments and your questions.